Hi, everyone. Happy Disability Pride Month. My name is Nico Meyering. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with blonde hair, large dark glasses, and a gray t-shirt seated in front of a purple background. Today, I'm honored to be joined by my friend Denise DiNoto. Denise, do you want to talk about yourself, introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me on today. I am a white woman. I use she, her pronouns, and I am also wearing dark glasses. I have dark hair, which is pulled back in a ponytail, and I'm wearing a dark t-shirt with the words "Make it accessible or burn it down" on the chest, and I am sitting in front of a blurred background today. I also use a wheelchair for mobility.
I love that. Make it accessible or burn it down. Denise, what lessons have you learned from being disabled?
Oh goodness, how long do we have?
As long as you
I,
need.
you know, growing up with my disability,
Mhm.
because I've had my disability all of my life, I had the chance to think creatively. My parents never let me get away with saying no, I can't. They
Mhm.
always challenged me and said, "Well, have you tried? Because if it's important enough to you, you'll find a way to make it work." And so that encouraged me from a young age to think creatively about how to engage with the world and to find a way to adapt to a world that was not built for me. And that in turn, as I've grown up, has enabled me to be I have good executive functioning skills, meaning that I know how to self regulate, I know how to look at a situation and plan for how I will tackle any situation. I have good problem solving skills. It's also made me empathetic to others. I know what it's like to be left out. I know what it is like to be picked on for something beyond my control. At the same token, I've been very privileged. As a white disabled woman, I know that my path has been easier than my peers who are not white. And so I see it as my responsibility to try to help push them the opportunities that may not otherwise have come their way or that automatically would have gone to me. Um, there's talk in the disability community about the quote unquote pretty disabled. But disability is messy. It's not pretty. And that belittles people who don't fit the norm of a quote unquote good disabled person.
Mhm.
There is no such thing. Like, we're just people. We all deserve respect. So hopefully, I've made progress in my own life in that regard.
That was such a comprehensive answer. Thank you. I loved when you were speaking about the traits you've been able to develop as you navigated a world that is inherently not built for you. Like that sounds like that old disabled innovation coming in clutch again.
I often say, if you put a group of people on a task,
Mhm.
you know, my disabled peers have come up with some of the most creative ways to handle things. And I learn from them all the time. And thank goodness I now have like this disabled hive mind to go to because I didn't have peers with disabilities growing up. I grew up in a small town and I was the only visibly disabled child to go to my school and my small community. And it wasn't until I went to summer camp and got exposed to other disabled kids that I then had a peer group that I could lean on. And we quite creatively came up with a lot of ways to get in trouble and to further our own agendas. So I know that people with disabilities have quite a bit of untapped knowledge sometimes.
Thank you. That sounds great. I also love what you're doing to increase the number of disability voices that we hear. Like once we're invited to the table, the first thing we need to do is make more room for chairs, make more room at the table, to be
Absolutely.
succinct.
Absolutely. Because I can't, just like I can't speak for everybody who's disabled, I can't speak for all women, I can't speak for all wheelchair users. I certainly can't speak to someone who has grown up in a different body than mine. Yes, we all have some generalities, but their story deserves to be heard and listened to and has more value sometimes than mine does.
Absolutely. Disability has no singular culture or experience or perspective.
No, but we're all tied together, I think, in the universality of wanting to be able to live full, self-directed lives
Yes, and with dignity.
with dignity. Absolutely.
Conversely, Denise, what have you had to unlearn, shall we say, as a result of your disability?
Well, so my parents gave me the blessing of being able to think out of the box, but they also instilled that, like, I've heard some people refer to it as like the super cripple theory, that, I'm going to do it all. There's no reason I can't do it all. My disability doesn't define me. Well, it may not define me, but it certainly informs me and how I act with the world. And so learning to ask for help was actually very difficult for me. And I had to unlearn that I can do it all mentality and say, you know what? It doesn't really matter if you ask for help doing your laundry. It doesn't mean that you have failed. It means that you are wisely saving your energy for the things that you care about. And laundry is not one of them. Um, I also used to hold the inherently ableist thought that, as long as I only had a physical disability, that was okay. Like I wasn't cognitively impaired. And that's so ableist. And, you know, the universe sometimes gives you the kick in the pants that you need. And once I woke up after an injury with a brain injury, I said, oh, well, look at that. Now I have memory problems.
Mm,
Now I have word finding difficulties. And because of my professional background as a speech language pathologist, I knew some compensatory strategies and I could, not overcome, but I could compensate. And and on good days, you can't tell. But on bad days or when I'm tired, it's quite obvious that there's something a little bit off with my thought process. And I'm I'm not ashamed to say that that's how I felt because I was conditioned that way. But I think that that's something we need to be cautious about in how we portray disability and how we as disabled people can still be victim of ableist ideas and not realize it. And that's something we have to come to grips with on our own time.
yeah, I completely agree. We all have some degree of internalized ableism. And I know from my part, I wish that I had known more about the interplay of independence and interdependence
Yes.
much sooner than I actually learned about it. Ugh, all the
You know,
wasted time.
right? And it's hard because like everybody does depend on other people.
Right.
That is the truth. And letting people help you is also provide, in my case, because I pay the people that help me are paid.
Mhm.
Medicaid program that provides home care. So I'm offering employment now. So I'm not just seeking help, I'm bettering somebody else. I'm giving somebody a chance to work and earn money and provide for their family. And we're dependent on each other. So that interdependence, as you say, empowers me to feel not just like somebody who's needy, but I have a role to play in the system. And it's not just a receiving end of care. I'm also supporting other people who are making their own better life.
That's a good way to look at it. It's a partnership.
It is. And good partnerships are based on trust. Anytime you let somebody into your house to touch your body, it requires trust and faith that the other person is going to respect you. And I have great respect for the work that they do. It's not menial work that's below anybody. It is great work that provides dignity for human beings and deserves to be rewarded as such with higher pay.
Yeah, I've seen in your tweets that you were involved in getting higher pay for in-home healthcare workers.
I was very involved in the fair pay for home care actions. I've had to take a little bit of a back seat because I've transitioned work recently.
Hmm.
Still very active in following it. and supporting them in their work, even if I can't be as vocal about it as I used to be.
Sure, sure. You got to preserve your spoons and save your resources, spend them wisely.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What is one thing you want non-disabled people to know about disability life?
You know, disability is not a fate worse than death.
Mhm.
And every now and then it'll still happen to me. I'll be explaining something about how I live life to somebody new who's never had to deal with home care or interviewing personal assistants or scheduling their bathroom breaks around when somebody's going to be in their house. And they'll say, wow, Denise, I don't know how I could do that. I wouldn't be able to do that if I were you. And I've had people tell me, if I were you, I'd kill myself.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I think I have a pretty good life. I'm very privileged. I have a full-time job. I have a modified vehicle that I can drive. I have friends and family who love me. I'm able to travel. I have an international trip planned for next year to Australia, and it will be my fourth time going there.
Pretty cool.
I have an awesome life. Really, you would kill yourself if you were me? Because if that life sounds so horrible to you, just because I happen to do it sitting in a wheelchair, I think you've got bigger things to worry about. Not you personally, but the person who says that.
Yeah.
And and disability is difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It does take more planning. It does mean that I can't be as spontaneous as I otherwise would have been. I used to be very spontaneous. And, yeah, no, I can't be as spontaneous as I used to be because other people depend on me for their job. So I have to take other people's schedules into consideration when I schedule a meeting and I'm going to be home late, or I have to be up early for a meeting. But it's just, this wheelchair is not anything that is confining for me. This wheelchair is what gives me the tools to be able to interact in the world. And my disability is certainly not the worst thing in the world that could ever happen to me. Losing everything in a house fire, that is horrible. And living in a situation that doesn't have clean water, that's horrible. Um, Losing power for an extended amount of time, that's horrible. This living with disability is, people can adapt to all sorts of things, and I think the people that say that they could never adapt to it are selling themselves short. You never know how much you have the power to adapt until you're faced with that situation.
That's true. Still in all, I'm sorry that people have said these things to you. Like that can't feel great.
It doesn't, and I've gotten to the point, I guess, now where I do tend to challenge them a little bit.
Mhm.
And I used to just be stunned, and now I don't care anymore. I'm a loudmouth, brash New Yorker, and I'm going to challenge you if you say what I consider.
That's fair. We only have one life.
Right, right. And I'm liking mine right now. Pretty good. It's a pretty good gig, I got to tell you.
As you should. Finally, Denise, what does disability pride mean to you?
I have to be honest.
Mhm.
I've struggled with this one a little bit.
Okay.
Um, so disability pride for me doesn't mean being proud that I'm disabled. It's not that I'm trying to hide from disability at
Mhm.
all. But I think disability pride for me means being proud that I get to carry this as part of my identity and that it's connected me with so many other amazing people that I might not have otherwise had the chance to meet. I don't know if I would have had the great relationships that I have with the women who were Ms. Wheelchair state title holders the same year that I was Ms. Wheelchair New York if it hadn't been for my disability. These are women across the United States that I know that I can turn to at any time if I have a question, and they probably are going to have an answer. I would not have had the chance to experience some of the learning opportunities I had as a young person if it hadn't been for my disability. I came of age at a great time in the world. When I started college, the ADA had just been signed into law, and there was a great push to educate young people with disabilities about what the ADA meant. So I got to go to leadership conferences, and institutions held conferences and learning events for their young disabled students. And it was great because I met other people who were learning about disability culture. And I learned that disability identity was a thing, even that there was a group that I could be a part of, and the group was welcoming and embraced me and all of my faults and answered all of my silly questions. And I'm proud to be a part of that group. I'm proud that we stand up for each other. At least that's been my experience. Now, I know that's not always everybody's experience, but disability pride for me means we take pride that disability has influenced our identity in ways that can be seen as positive or negative, but has given us a community to work from.
That's
That was
fair
a
to
long
say.
roundabout answer, but
No, it's a great answer. We can definitely celebrate the disabled community, the connections we've made, and the opportunities it's given us. I also personally loved your answer because I was born only 2 years before the ADA was passed. So it's not an aspect of disability history that I had a chance to remember. So I loved hearing it from you.
well, thank you. Thank you.
Denise, where can people find you online?
So online, I'm very active on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter, you can look at me at dscribes, DeeScribes,
Okay.
or search by my name, Denise DiNoto. I'm on Facebook as well and LinkedIn. And I have an Instagram account, but I'll be honest, I really only use it to look at pictures of my niece's kids. So,
That's fair. That's
you
fair.
know, I lurk on Instagram, but I'm much more active on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, Denise. Have a fantastic rest of your day.
It's been great. Happy Disability Pride Month.
Happy Disability Pride Month to you.